What's up everyone, welcome back. Today's going to be another rotary filled episode, which I'm super excited about because honestly rotaries are really addictive to me. They're just unique and cool and I just love working on them. But the goal for today is to get the FC running on the Haltech Elite ECU. So we've got a few tasks ahead of us before we could do that, including making some custom length Sparkplug wires, as well as finishing up our patch harness, and lastly adjusting the tune. And hopefully, cross your fingers, this thing starts right up. So let's get started. All right, here are the components of our Sparkplug wires. We have our wire with the end that's going to connect to the spark plug right here. And then we have our boots and then our terminals right here. So what we're going to do is cut these to length and then we'll basically cut off this insulation and then we'll crimp our pins on and then slide over our boots. All right, so I'm going to do the front lead-in first, so it's this plug right here. I'll just leave some slack as well, so I'll cut it right about there. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is just take off about 5/8 of an inch of this insulation. And the way I'm going to do that is just hold an X-Acto knife and roll this through it. And then we should be able to twist this off and you'll see just the core. After that, we'll fold this core back over the insulation and we'll put our connector on top of it so that a little bit of the insulation is sticking past. And I'm just gonna make this a little snug like so. So as you can see, you have a little bit of the wire and you have your pin and you'll want to center it and then you'll just crimp down nice and tight. And as you can see, this has grabbed into the insulation and that's going nowhere. So this part of it is complete. All right, so now we'll have to slide this boot over the wire so that this terminal is going to be facing outward, and some WD-40 will help it slide in a little bit easier. This is probably the most annoying part for me. All right, so as you can see, connector is inside of the boot, so this one is good to go. So now we'll just have to make 3 more. Alright, well here are our 4 wires, so now let's just hook everything up. Front lead-in, and we have our front trail-in, our rear lead-in, and then our rear trail-in. Now we just have to clean that up and we'll be good to go. Alright, so here is my setup for my patch harness. So I have my Haltech connector right here, stock ECU connector right here, ECU pinout over here, and I have my connections for the Haltech here, and then my map pin that goes from the Haltech pin to the ECU pin. And then I have the pins that I need to crimp the wires on and then insert them into the connector. Let's do this. I'm going to time lapse this and hopefully it all works. so here we have our patch harness. We only have to make 4 more connections, which are outside of this ECU plug, which are those wires that we ran to our coil packs. So we'll just have to finish those 4 up, and then this will be installed and we'll try it out. Alright guys, so we have the ECU connected, and of course you're going to have to configure it for your specific setup, but in general, just going to make sure everything looks right. But it's set up to run a rotary. We have our capacity, number of rotors, and then we have our trigger settings. We set it up for FC RX7. So the offset angle you're going to want to verify when you're verifying the base timing. So you're going to want to lock the timing and adjust that offset as needed. Then we just have our basic trigger and home signals, or relector. In terms of fuel, we're going to be using DE. We have a 3-bar base fuel pressure, 2-stage injection, because we have primary and secondary injectors. For our ignition, we have our direct fire set up. So for our fuel, I'm just going with 60 VE. I find that's a pretty good starting point just to get the car running. And I pretty much zeroed out a lot of the coolant temp corrections just so I could get it running, and then do some big course changes, and then we'll fine tune everything later. For the ignition, I'm just running 5 degrees before top dead center, and then make sure that you're also setting up your injectors. So these are the stock 460cc injectors, but other than that, everything else seems to be configured properly. So we're gonna give this a shot and try to start it. Yeah. Alright, well that's going to do it for today's episode. I am pumped that we have another rotary up and running. Honestly, I'm a little bit shocked just because we changed so many things on this car. We junked the old MAF and the intake system, threw out the old ECU, threw in a brand new Haltech Elite. We completely revised the ignition system, made a patch harness so that we wouldn't have to rewire the whole thing. Anyways, it's just up and running, it's idling strong. I just love it. So in the next episodes, we will just fine tune this thing a little bit more, get it running nicely in its current form. Then we'll throw in some bigger injectors and tune that just so we could get ready for our turbo build. Anyways, I hope you guys are enjoying this build. Press that like button if so. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.